a decent road. Are you ready? So hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the Restomod series, and today we've got something truly awesome in. This is the Bamford by Bishop's Range Rover. Now, I saw this thing launch actually on Instagram, and the moment I saw it, I thought, wouldn't it be great one day if I could even see this thing, let alone drive it? And lo and behold, thanks so much to Bishop's for bringing it down. It's awesome to have it here. Now, this thing is a special piece of kit. First of all, I want to talk about the re-engineering of this. There's so much work which has gone on the interior, which we can share with you later, but a lot has gone on with the chassis, the drivetrain, the suspension, effectively the things that you can't see, which is a game changer for how this thing drives. Only 10 of these, or this particular model, will be made, and it's a really interesting collaboration between Bishop's that specialize in the restoration and augmentation of 4x4s and Bamford watch department, who have put their sort of custom fit and finish and features, which are predominantly on the inside, and small details like this. And these two leaders of their space effectively have come together for this beautiful project. All right, first of all, let's talk about the business end of the car, which is of course the engine. Now this, if you're familiar with the engine bay of a 90s Range Rover, is not standard. Look at that. Picture this, if you will. Original car would have ran around about 180 horsepower. This is developing 470. So that in itself is incredible. It doesn't need me to tell you that you can't just drop a 470 brake V8 LS3 engine in it without upgrading a load more components. So we've got uprated 6-speed gearbox, fancy diff at the rear. But the important thing here is it's not just about having more power. This car is very much designed to be lived with and used on a daily basis. And while more power is nice, the ability to have more torque and just to waft along with a lot more sort of effortless ease makes this a more compelling proposition if you wanted to live with it or certainly run it more often. Now, we'll share with you shortly what it's like to drive out on the road, but if you can imagine back when this thing might have been an automatic, it probably would have run a 4-speed auto. And at 180 horsepower, and they weighed over 2 tons, I think they were like 2.2 or 3 tons, with an old auto box, that may have translated to real wheel power, maybe 130 horsepower. In a minute, it's going to be fascinating to feel what 470 V8 horsepower feels with a proper transmission. Okay, so you can't have loads of go without loads of slow. So this car is accommodating actually an 18-inch bowler alloy, which in itself is pretty cool. And then behind, we have this vastly uprated 6-piston caliper brakes. And you'll notice that the caliper itself is painted in the iconic Bamford blue with, and you can just see it through these spokes, the beautifully detailed Bamford logo that sits on the brake calipers. But once again, this car is of course still a heavy car, but now it has a lot of power. So you can't just put in a load of power without having the ability to back it up. And on top of that performance, of course, is putting it to the tarmac, which this is fitted with Michelin PS4S SUV tires. So they are a derivative of the PS4S, but specifically developed for SUVs. And once again, you can't have all that power, all that torque, and uprated chassis dynamics without being able to translate it to the tarmac. We can't discuss the engine without discussing the exhaust. Now, the keen aficionados of you might remember that the 70s two-doors also had a angle cut exhaust. Of course, the diameter would have been much smaller, but this is a subtle nod to that. Now then, as beautiful as this car is on the exterior, for me, the magic really happens on the interior. What a game-changing experience. First of all, massive change in these seats. It's transformed the whole character of this thing. Now, the subtle theme running throughout it is a nod to sort of British sports cars of the 60s. Hence, you can see these sort of open studs in the seats. One thing that you might not be able to pick up on camera is that the central section of the seats is actually made of Nomex, which for anyone unfamiliar is the fire retardant fabric synonymous with racing gear, racing clothes and overalls, etc. We've also got this beautiful wheel. Again, it's all subtly inspired by classic racing cars. Now, I'm not sure if the camera is picking up on this or doing it justice, but the engine turned inserts in the dash here have a very subtle blue tint on them, which ties in beautifully with the Bamford blue, because we've got embroidery on the seats. Even the stitch, this very fine contrast stitching here, is in Bamford blue. We've got Nomex on the armrest here, and this is where the Resto really becomes the mod, because you can see the ModCon upgrades on the interior, because we've got quad USB ports down here, something that literally didn't even exist when this car was launched. And then if I turn on these lights, we also have Bamford blue on the instrument cluster. How cool is that? So there's all of these subtle features. We've got a Bamford logo embroidered here into the Alcantara. And speaking of Alcantara, it is clad entirely on the dash here, left and right of the grab handle, and the whole roof lining is Alcantara. It's a beautiful environment in which to sit. And then down here, look, we have a vastly uprated head unit, but it has still retained that sort of authentic character somehow, even though there's this juxtaposition with these seats. Somehow just fits it perfectly. The other thing that you probably can't tell is just down here, there is this little silver button which says Bilstein on it. And this is actually, well, effectively adaptive suspension. If you press this out on the drive, suspension stiffens up and transforms the handling of it. So, you've seen all of the wonderful details, but what would a collaboration with a watch brand be without an actual watch? I mean, this thing is beautiful. So with every edition, and don't forget, only 10 of these editions are being made, comes a beautifully matched Bamford Watch Department watch. And it is a gorgeous thing. Anyway, I think on that note, it's quite literally time to hit the road. Listen to it. Oh, the first word that's coming to mind is juxtaposition. I mean, the way this thing sounds, we've got a 470 horsepower, naturally aspirated V8 in this thing. Conveniently, and I wouldn't normally say this, but conveniently, we are encountering a roundabout in this car first. First observation, this thing handles. Entirely revised suspension, entirely revised brakes. We've got new dampers, we've got Bilstein adjustable suspension here, which means with quite literally the press of a button down here, I can go from this platform which ambles along quite nicely in a refined manner, and with literally the press of a button, which I'm going to do right now, it activates and stiffens up essentially the Bilstein system, and you can feel it immediately. The whole point of Bishop is to develop and create a car entirely bespoke to you. So while this is the Bamford edition, which, might I say, now we're actually rolling, is a stunning place to be, and the seats are so unique. It's amazing how much seats can change the interior feel of a car. Bishop will create any car you want, so you can have it as original as you want on the exterior and as palatial and luxurious as you want on the interior, or you can go full send and have the exterior looking as glamorous as you wish. So we find ourselves in a sleepy Oxfordshire village, and I like this because these things feel right at home here. It's the kind of car that turns heads for the right reason, not because you're rolling through in anything overly obnoxious or overly pimped. It just fits in with your quintessential British sleepy village. Now then, here we are, back on a decent road. Are you ready? And the gearbox is great. So at this point of the video, if you like it, be sure to leave a thumbs up in the comments below. If you really like it, hit that subscribe button. And if you really, really like it, when you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell because you'll be the first to know when new content goes live.